tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in the palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have everyone here. My name is Gulshan, and I'm with American Center Tashkent. As you see, we continue our Chai Chat series with a rising senior at Yale University and a virtual intern at American Councils for International Education, Naomi Messer. Hi, Naomi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for joining us again.
Okay.
And I just want to say that this time, dear viewers, you will learn some American slang expressions that will help you speak more naturally, and also you will broaden your English language by adding some new words. So be ready to take notes and be ready to ask questions. Just as usual, this program is streamed live both on YouTube and Facebook. So if you're watching us, please feel free to put your questions and comments in the comment section, and Naomi will be answering questions after the presentation. So please join me in welcoming Naomi. Naomi, the floor is yours.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about slang and ways in which young Americans might speak. I entitled this presentation, How to Speak Like an American, but what does that even mean? Anyone who has listened to music or TV knows that there is not one way to speak like an American. There are people from the South, from Boston, from New York, who have very specific and regional accents. This is a map that shows some of the many dialects and accents in the United States. As you can see, there's a ton of diversity. Interestingly enough, a lot of these accents are a result of immigration and different groups that settled in America. I really like linguistics. You might not, so bear with me. For example, the Southern accent, which seems so distinctive, is actually a descendant from the British accent. In the 1600s, British accents were very different from the British accent that we might know today. It was currently British English is non-rhotic, which is a term that means that you don't pronounce the R sound. So you would say something like ka. However, in the 1600s, British English was rhotic and pretty much sounded quite similar to the Southern accents we hear today. In the upper Midwest, it was settled by many people who were from Scandinavia, and the Midwestern accent and its sort of lilts and its peak sounds pretty similar to the way that Nordic people speak. Louisiana is also known for their distinct accent because Louisiana was a French colony until it's purchased by Jefferson in 1803, and their accent is remarkably similar to a French accent. I would strongly suggest, if this is something you're interested in, there's a lot of YouTube videos where you can watch and sort of listen to some of the similarities and hear about how the accents changed and developed. Moreover, a lot of different ethnic groups may speak different forms of English, which are not on this map because they're not as geographically located. A notable form of this is African American vernacular English, which refers to the dialect used by people of African American descent. And although this map shows that there is one New York accent, that's incorrect. There are actually many different New York accents, depending on whether you're Italian, Irish, Jewish, or Latino. The linguistic differences are so distinct, in fact, that a couple of years ago, there was a really popular New York Times quiz that would try to predict where you were from based on the regionalisms you use. So you would answer 30 questions and they would ask you, like, what do you call it when the sun is out and there's rain? And every place has a different way of referring to this. And I took this quiz again when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today. And as you can see, after answering these 30 questions, there are 3 dots that pretty much place me where I was from, which is from New York. And the other places with the red dots, which is, you know, North California's Bay Area and LA, as well as Southern Florida, are places that a lot of New Yorkers have moved to, and a lot of New Yorkers, people who are originally from New York, that live there now. So it's not very surprising that I have a lot of linguistic similarities with people from those places. And the question that made the quiz realize where I was from is that I use the word sneakers to refer to exercise shoes, which I didn't even know was regionally specific until taking this quiz. I thought everybody called them sneakers. So as you can see, talking like an American is not one thing, because there are so many different ways and words that Americans use when they speak. But you didn't come here for a linguistics lesson. You came here to learn about slang and idioms. So let's get to it. So our first word is tea. Some of you may have seen this meme of Kermit the Frog sipping his tea, and it says, like, you know, but that's none of my business. Today we are repurposing this meme to discuss tea. Tea comes from the word truth, and it refers to gossip or like a juicy tidbit. In general, it has to be something that people would consider to be like exciting or like unknown. So my early example here, which is, hey, Bob, I have some tea for you. OMG, like, oh my God, spill. Spill is usually the verb used with tea. Tea's a noun, so it'd be like spill the tea. Chai chats are the most fun thing ever. That's not tea. Everybody knows that. That's not a good example of tea, because everybody knows that chai chats are the best. Tea is a noun, and yeah, you would use it with the verb spill, and it originates from African American vernacular English, which I was talking a little bit about earlier. Their next word is a bop. So a bop is a really good song that makes you want to dance. It's actually sort of an older word when I was looking into it. It originates in the 1930s from the music style bebop. It's a noun, and if you hear a song you love, you can just say like, oh, it's a bop. Generally, it refers to dance music or music with a good beat, but it can also be used somewhat ironically to refer to a song that no one would dance to. Like, you could say something like, oh, you know what's low-key a bop? Low-key meaning like underratedly, or something that not many people might know about. So like, what, you know what's low-key a bop? What? The U.S. national anthem. No, this person does not think that the U.S. national anthem is low-key a bop. And then here's my other example, which is, hey, have you heard the new song by Lizzo? No, is it good? Yeah, it's hella good. It's straight up a bop. So here, hella means very, and it's a regional term mostly used by people in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area. So if you go to San Francisco or the surrounding cities, you might hear people use this term a lot. And straight up means honestly or truthfully, so like straight up. For this slide, I used a picture, a logo of Kids Bop, which is sort of like a meme. For those of you who don't know, they are a group of kids that cover the songs on the radio, and they change them to make them appropriate for kids. And they're all sung by kids. And in my view, they do not make bops, but they do sometimes, their lyric changes do make the songs pretty silly. If you ever meet someone from the US and you ask them about Kids Bop and their thoughts on Kids Bop, they will definitely be impressed by your knowledge of weird Gen Z culture. So here's our other word, swole, brolic, and buff. They are only some of the terms used to refer to people who are very muscular and spend a lot of time in the gym. There are honestly too many to name here. In the US, there's a really strong bodybuilding culture. There are a lot of online forums where people in the bodybuilding community talk about how to get fit. And a lot of people get really into exercises like CrossFit and try to become extremely muscular, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But there's probably an even stronger culture of making fun of people who take their fitness very seriously. I don't know if you've ever heard of this phrase, do you even lift? Which roughly means like, are you mad or are you jealous or are you some kind of imposter, pretending to like have expertise when you don't? But it's often used somewhat sarcastically by those who don't lift to poke fun at those who are obsessed with physical fitness. And all of these terms are adjectives, swole, brolic, and buff. I tried to look up to see if there are any agreed upon differences between these terms and if there are any small nuances between them. But there doesn't really seem to be. They all refer to muscles as opposed to body fat. There are other words like cut, which means you just have like extremely low body fat. To me, brolic sounds like more masculine and aggressive. Buff would be if like someone was pretty fit, but maybe not the most fit. And swole, which comes from swollen, would be if someone is just like very, very muscular. This picture here is of a Pokemon character. I think it's Charizard, and in my view, he's looking a little swole. And this is a picture that comes from Etsy, which is a website where you can buy handicrafts. And it's also sort of a bit of a meme or like a joke that you can pretty much buy any crazy thing you want on Etsy, including a little figurine of Brolic Pokemon. So here are my examples. Wow, he is so buff. He must work out all the time. He is swole. He is one of the most muscular people I know. Whoa, she's brolic. She must always be in the gym. And next word is bro. So bro is a way to refer to a close friend. And it originated in California, where it referred to a male friend, and it was very popular in surfing culture. Now it's a way to greet a friend, regardless of whether they're a boy or girl. If you've ever heard someone refer to a friend or acquaintance as dog, it has a pretty similar usage to bro. It's also a way of getting someone's attention when said repeatedly. So being like, bro, 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 bro. I think I have that here. Yeah, bro, 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 bro. Did you catch a game last night? And then a derivative of the term is bruh, which can be used somewhat ironically, like wow. And it works both if something good or bad has happened. Despite the term originating with surfing culture, it has come to be associated with fraternity culture. So if you refer to someone as your bro unironically, people might assume that you're part of a frat. And as you can see, a lot of Gen Z slang and internet culture is pretty ironic and not very earnest. So here are my examples. Oh, I know him. He's my bro. Like, he's my friend. Bro, bro, bro. Did you catch the game last night? Like, letting someone know. I just got a C on a math quiz. Bruh. Wow. That's terrible. The next one is I'm dying. So even though it sounds a little bit dark and bleak, it actually just means that something is making you laugh really hard and it's cracking you up. It comes from the common phrase, like, I'm dying of laughter, in this case, shortened. Sometimes when you're texting someone and they tell you a funny story or a joke, you might just text back dying to let them know you've laughed. Some people say I'm living instead if they want to be more positive and a little bit less dark. And I would say that if you like text it to someone, then you're pretty much saying like LOL, like it's something that's like not funny enough where you're actually laughing, but funny enough that you have like a little bit of a chuckle and you still want to acknowledge the effort of the person. So here are my examples. Did you hear the tea? Yes, I did, and I'm dying. So that would be some very funny tea. And why did the chicken cross to the road? To get to the other side. Dying. That would be you texting it back. I don't know if you know, but this like joke construction of like, why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side is really popular amongst like in like middle school. Like if someone ever says like, oh, tell me a joke, they might tell you that joke. And it's not funny at all. And nobody knows why the chicken crossed the road is sort of the point. There's a really popular candy called Laffy Taffies. And if you open up the wrapper, all of the Laffy Taffies have really silly and like corny jokes like that. So it's just another corny joke. Sus and sketchy are adjectives that refer to situations or things that are weird or seem suspicious. In fact, sus is a shortened form of suspect or suspicious. If you ever find yourself in a weird situation or someone tells you something that you suspect might not be true, it would be a good time to use either of these words, which are pretty much interchangeable. The one thing I would say is that sus is a bit stronger. Like if you use this word, it has a sort of a stronger connotation, and it's something that you might have like more of a sense or more of an inkling that it's a bad situation, as opposed to sketchy, which is just like a little bit less specific and you might have less proof. So my friend told me he could make $100 million selling vitamins. IDK, seems pretty sus. I just went to buy a dog. It seemed a little sketchy. They wanted me to put down a deposit before even looking at the dogs. So in the first one, it's sus because you probably will never be able to make $100 million selling vitamins door to door in this case. But for the second one, it's possible that, you have to put down the down payment for the dogs. It's just a little sketchy. It's not, maybe the best situation. The next word is lit, which means something exciting or fun. It's often used to refer to social gatherings or parties that are exceptionally fun. It's an adjective, and it's been in usage for over a century. It initially referred to getting drunk, but now it has a far better meaning of something fun or great. Generally, it's used to refer to gatherings, events, or places. Birthday parties, concerts, and school assemblies are all things that can be lit, and it just means that there's a great atmosphere and you want to be there and you want to tell people how much fun it was. Another term that might be used interchangeably with lit is popping, which also refers to gatherings or events that were especially fun. And my examples are, American Corner Karshi is lit. There's always something fun going on. I know they're not here with us today, but they're here in spirit. How is Brenda's birthday? It was lit. She got a clown and someone to paint faces. So our next word is dummy. Dummy is a modifier that just means very. I always am overusing this slang term. And you can also use it with just about every adjective. Something exciting going on, then I'm dummy juiced. Is something uninteresting happening, I'm dummy bored. Did I have to write a 25-page essay? Yes, and it was dummy long. Despite the fact that it used to have sort of a pejorative meaning, which it referred to someone who wasn't intelligent, it's now a modifier that you can use with almost any of these words here. So if someone is especially muscular, they're dummy brolic. And if you went to a good party, it was dummy lit. So it just is a way to intensify anything you're saying. It's neutral. It could be for something good or bad. So here are the examples. Bruh, like I was saying earlier, just say like, wow, that test was a dummy hard. IDK, I don't know, but a lot of times people will just say IDK, even in like common vernacular spoken English, if I got a good grade on it. I have a 38.8 Celsius fever. Oh, you're dummy sick. Our next word is dope. So dope means very good or cool. And if you hear someone say that's dope, it means that they're excited or happy. I think it's sort of, more of like a term associated again with like the California surfing subculture. So you wouldn't say that's dope super excitedly. It would be something that's a little bit more chill and you're a little bit more low key about, but something that is great nonetheless. And so I hope you all thought that this presentation was dope and you learned a lot of cool new stuff.
Naomi, the presentation was a dope. Okay. Can we move to the questions?
Yes.
Good. All right. So our first question is from Hayrat, and he's asking, what is your suggestion for improving American accent? Do you have any suggestions?
Sure. When I was looking up these terms, I was reading through a lot of advice online. There are a lot of resources if you do want to improve your American accent. Obviously, it's difficult for me to say because it comes so naturally to me, and I don't even know like what an American accent is, in the same way you all probably don't really know what an Uzbek accent is or whatever accent that you speak with. People said that you should focus on your R's, that English has, American English and English generally has very specific R's that aren't really used. And so you should work on making that sound with the R, and using contractions, but I guess that's less for the accent, but making sure that you're using a lot of contractions, and sometimes T's become D's. So you might not say like wanted, you might say like wanted, and things like that.
Okay, thanks so much. Our next question is from Rahatoy Safarova. Could you please give some examples about the difference between idioms and slang?
Yeah, so idioms are more like phrases, and slang are individual words. So an idiom might be something like it's raining cats and dogs, which means it's raining a lot. And it's a phrase that you might not initially think refers to the thing that it refers to. Whereas slang are just, words that have evolved in spoken language to refer to things that most people understand.
Thank you. Next question from Nazira Chinebekova. What age groups uses the most slang?
I would definitely say young people, people who spend a lot of slang now comes from TikTok. So people who spend a lot of time on TikTok and other social media platforms. It would definitely be weird if you heard someone who is a little bit older saying that like they went to a lit party. Like if my mom said that, I would sort of give her a look, like it would not be too normal. But definitely slang is for younger people.
Okay, thank you. Question from Kusanagramov. How can I improve my English level? Can I come to your American Spaces Centers and learn English?
Gulshan, you should answer it. I'm going to say yes, but you need to give the final approval.
Okay, so, well, about the American Spaces, if you are in Tashkent, unfortunately, American Center Tashkent is closed right now for the public, but we moved all our programs to virtual platforms. So you can join us virtually like you did today. We have a lot of programs where you can improve your English, like chat chats, alumni talks, and debates, and some other programs. If you are in Karshi, our American Center Karshi is open for the public, so you can come there. Yeah. And about improving English, Naomi, maybe you could give some tips.
I can give some general tips, although I would, of course, suggest coming to American Spaces and American Center and trying to learn, because there are such great programs. But short of that, I would say I learn Russian and Persian in university, and I'm very bad at learning languages. So I have a lot of good tips for learning languages. But I would say definitely trying to watch TV and movies. I would say it's easy to watch if you have like a good level of English, which I think you do. It's good to watch them with English subtitles. I find it to be really hard to hear foreign languages that I don't speak so well, and so I think that like makes it a lot easier to get a lot more understanding. And then make sure that you really like write down every word. I mean, it's gonna be like terrible, but like write down every word that you don't understand, and then like look it up and write it down and try to write it a couple of times, because generally if you write all of the vocab words, it becomes a lot easier to understand them and to remember them, I think, than just like typing them on the computer. Like doing it with your written, like with your hand, makes it a lot easier. So that's what I would say. Watch TV. I feel like I know also a lot of people who say like, oh, I learned English from TV. So.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So our next question is from Aziza. Which occasions are appropriate to use slang or other informal expressions? It's unlikely we can use slang in formal writing, so when should we refer to slang? Thanks.
So which occasions are appropriate. So I would say that when you're talking to people who are around the similar age as you, if you're younger, that would be an appropriate time to use slang. In general, the United States is a pretty informal society. And so like you could use slang that might be like, you could say like, oh, that's like the word dope is like to refer to something good is something that, you know, a lot of older people might know. So if you're sort of, you know, friendly with an adult, your friend's parent or something like that, you could say like, oh, that's dope, like congratulations or something like that. I definitely would not suggest using it in formal writing, but just like if you're talking to all same age people, that works, and some adults who are, you know, not your teachers or I mean, you could do that, but it would just be a little weird, like, but because it is such an informal society, but I would say like more adults that you know and have some sort of relationship with.
Thank you. So we asked people to make sentences with the words while you were doing a presentation. So Rohatay Safaro is saying American Konakarshi is lit.
So that's good. The one thing I'm going to say is that you would say it's lit. American Corner Crochet is lit without using a. But other than that, it's a really good sentence. Thank you for coming up with that. It is lit.
Yeah, and Gairat also used a phrase that dope, good vibes.
Good vibes. The one thing I will say is also another tip for speaking English is that we mostly use contractions. So we wouldn't say like it is, cannot, do not. We would say it's, can't, or don't. And so one way to improve your English a lot is, but that's again, like, again, you could use that with, I wouldn't suggest using it in formal writing. But you could definitely use it, although you can. I mean, people think it's a little weird when you don't, but you can definitely use it with adults of all ages and like your peers, but it's not like a formality thing, but I would just suggest like using contractions whenever you can.
Thank you. Question from Shohsanam Ibrahimova. Which dialect of the USA considered to be used on TV or in literature or in formal meetings?
So that's a good question. In around the 1930s, some people decided that the standard American accent was going to be an Ohio accent. So a lot of times the American accent that you think of is actually an Ohio accent. It's considered to be very neutral and like the most neutral accent. That being said, like in terms of what dialect, like you can pretty much see any of these dialects in TV or in literature. It depends on what you're reading. There are, you know, books on African Americans that might use African American dialect, or books on, you know, people from Italian Americans that might use Italian American dialect. And on TV shows, generally, I would say that people tend to speak with like a more New York or like Ohio, more, you know, neutral American accent. But there definitely are people who speak with Southern accents, and you can use whatever, you know, accent you want in formal meetings, but or like whatever dialect you want, mostly because like most people don't have much control. There is code switching. There are people who can like go from one dialect to another, but in general, people are pretty understanding that like you just sort of speak the way you speak.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Donald Grant. Hello, Naomi. Where can we find the best idioms? Can you recommend some websites?
I'm not sure of any websites. I would definitely suggest looking up idioms, just sort of like English idioms, and then put the year so you can try to get the most up-to-date ones. But just keep in mind that a lot of times some of the slang online can be a little outdated. So you can ask me questions right now, you can look some up, and I can tell you if it's outdated, if it's still something that people use. So just be careful when you're looking up slang, because they might have some terms on these websites that people don't really use, and people will look at you and ask if you're, you know, 20, 30 years older than you are.
Okay, thanks. All right, so I want to remind everyone while we're here, ask questions, put your questions in the comments, and don't miss this chance to ask your questions about slang. So my question, Naomi, are there any professional slang words like in different professions in the US that, let's say, people use in one organization and wouldn't use in another?
There are definitely a lot of words that you might use if you work at like a big corporation. I'm trying to think of some right now. But there definitely is like a very specific slang there. But get back to me. I can't remember offhand. I'm sorry.
Sorry to put you on spot. Let me just show everyone what words we had so that people could think of the examples. So we had dope, we had
I think
bro,
dummy,
dummy,
but not in a bad way, lit, sus and sketchy, I'm dying, bro, swole, brolic, buff, bop, tea. Those are all the words.
Okay. So guys, if you can make up a sentence using one of these words, put them in the comments. So Nambar Akbarova is asking, are there some Telegram groups to have a talk with people who speak American English dialect? Naomi, do you know any?
I don't. Telegram is not particularly popular, but there's this app called Tandem that I learned about in one of my language classes where you do a language share. So you might sign up to speak in a language that you're comfortable speaking in, and in turn you would get to speak English with someone. And so you can sign up for apps and it's free. You can sign up for apps and exchanges like that where you can talk with people who are from America and who speak English natively, and in turn you'll talk to them in a language that they're interested in learning. So that could be a good thing to do. It's called Tandem.
Tandem. Okay, thank you. I'm sure there are some groups on Telegram, probably. Yeah, you can always join our programs. We have native speakers. All right, I don't see. Do you guys, if anyone has questions, please put them in the comment section. Just a kind reminder.
Here, I looked up some like slang terms that are mostly used in business. So saying something like, oh, let's put a pin in it, which means like, let's get back to it, is pretty common. Or bandwidth, like, do you have the bandwidth to do something, the ability, or like, yeah, those are all some business terms that people might use. I don't know about other jobs, but that's also something people make fun of a lot, that people in like big American corporations have this like sort of sometimes have like a funny slang that is like a little bit silly and people don't always get. So
Yeah, you said that you use overuse dummy in your speech, right? What are other words that you and your friends, people around you, use a lot?
One of my close friends is from California, so I listen to a lot of California slang. So a lot of referring to people as a dog, and things like that. Or
is it D-O-G?
Dog, yeah, like oh dog. My friend who's Californian likes to use the California slang, like somewhat ironically, as I said, a lot of Generation Z culture, which would be like my generation. People like to use things really ironically and be extremely ironic and caustic. And so you might say something like "sada," which means like "sup dog" in Northern California slang. So I hear that a lot. I mean, a lot of these are words that I use. I was going over the presentation with a friend of mine. She told me that bop was outdated. So I disagree. I tried to give you like slang that actual people use, but other than that, these are like all words that me and my friends might use.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. So I know you answered this question, but maybe we can repeat. Can you give tips to improve pronunciation?
Sure. So one thing that I read online is that a lot of times English has a very specific R sound that is not very easy for non-native speakers to do. It's not like re, it's R, and you have to shape your mouth like that. And so maybe working on that sound, if that's something that gives you difficulties. A lot of again, trying not to speak so formally. So a lot of times it would be pretty formal to pronounce all of your T's and stuff. Say, oh, like wanted would be pretty formal. A lot of people would just sort of swallow the T and make it wanted. That would make it good. I'll try to think of other things. Again, like as I said before, it comes so naturally to me that it's very difficult for me to think of ways in which people can improve their pronunciation. Gulshan, do you have any tips?
I think communication with native speakers really helps. Watching movies and practicing language would help. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of internet resources. Like if you look up how to improve your English pronunciation, there are a lot of really good YouTube ESL channels and websites that can give you more specific tips from people who have more experience teaching people who are learning English as their second language how to speak correctly. So I would suggest looking into that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Farah Sultan, for your question. White Ismail is giving us an example. Bro, I'm dying because the T is that swole bro from that lead party is complete sus, which is kind of dope.
Okay, that's actually sort of good. Because so first of all, the COS, I like the sentence, but I will just give you some tips for everybody. That spelling of COS is British English. We would spell it CAUSE, cause. The T is that the. There are a lot of articles in English, which I know are not common in Russian. I don't know about Uzbek, but a lot of times,
no articles too.
Yeah, a lot of times people have difficulty knowing when to put the articles. So the swole bruh, but we would say the swole bro. Bruh is like, again, a somewhat ironic usage. I don't know if you would necessarily refer to someone as a bruh. From that lit party is completely sus. That's a adverb because is a verb, which is kind of dope. Yeah, that's a good sentence otherwise.
Thank you. All right. Bixot is asking, he missed the name of the app.
Sure, it's called Tandem, Tandem. And you can just sort of sign up, free to use, and you can match with partners who might want to learn one of the languages you speak.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just put it in the comment section so that people.
Yeah, and there might be, and I'm sure there are lots of other, apps or things like that where you can practice your language or, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right. Let me see. Okay, so a comment from Kusanagramov. He lives in Tashkent and really wants to improve his American English accent. Can I come to your center and learn English from native speakers? Yes, you can. You will be able to come to our center once we open up our doors for the public. Once the situation with the pandemic gets better, so we'll be happy to see everyone and Yuko-san. So far, you can join us during our virtual programs. I'm looking at the comments, so many comments here. Okay, no questions. People are talking to each other. Did you ever have an experience then a person would say a word and you wouldn't know what it means in English?
Yes, especially for slang words. I don't want to expose myself as being not cool, but I definitely had to ask my sister for some tips and guidance in the past, because I often don't know a lot of slang words, or I have to look things up, especially things that are pretty regional. I often just have no idea what's going on. So a lot of times people might use something called Urban Dictionary, which is just a resource where if you hear a slang term and you might not know what it means, you can look it up. And there are also a lot of different places where you could put in the slang term and look it up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So slang is not something you actually learn. It's something that you hear and then you start using it, right?
Yeah, there's no classes. It's just sort of you hear it being used a lot. You might ask someone oh, what does that mean? I don't think I've heard that term. You read it, you get it from context. A lot of these things I had to look up precise meanings because I just sort of didn't know. It's just oh, dope is dope. Just not very helpful to people trying to learn what these words mean. But yes, you definitely just sort of pick it up. There's no place to learn it. You definitely don't learn it from your teachers.
Yeah, except for chai chats, you can learn it.
Chai chats.
Yeah. So we have a question about Shahsanam Ibrahimov is asking if TOEFL exams now available in Tashkent. She's a huge fan of American accent. I couldn't find where I can get prepared for TOEFL. That's why I'm learning IELTS. Do you have anything? Okay, you probably don't know, no, because it's about Tashkent. So Shahsanam, American Center Tashkent doesn't do the tests. They do not organize tests for people, but we have lots of resources for you to prepare both for TOEFL and IELTS, like books, CDs here in ACT. But unfortunately, right now you won't be able to use them since we're closed. But once we open, please follow our social media. We'll announce it widely. Once we open, you will be able to come and study for your TOEFL exam. Prepare for your TOEFL exam. Azam Zoidov is asking when ACT will open. The answer is we don't know. It depends on the situation here in Tashkent. So if situation with COVID gets better and the embassy is open, we'll open too. So just follow our social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Telegram, and we'll definitely let everyone know once we're open. Donald Grant has his exam in 2 weeks. Do you have any recommendations to improve his speaking? In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, that's a little tough. I would say I can give you some tips to incrementally improve your speaking. I don't know about in 2 weeks. What sort of exams might these be? Do you have any sense? Like if they're, well, Sean, do you know? Like if it's like, is it common that there's certain types of exams or just generally?
I'm not sure
Okay.
what kind of exam it is. It might be school, it might be TOEFL, ielts,
I don't know
university.
if we'll have like a specific exam at a certain time or something like A levels or something like that. Okay, improving your speaking. I'm really bad at speaking foreign languages. It's like my worst skill, possibly. And some things I do to help are I try to spend, at least 1 hour a week working on it, trying to talk to someone. At my university, we have free tutors, so I go to the tutor every single week and practice just on speaking. Just sort of, and like sometimes even just like talking to yourself, although it looks weird, is a really good way to practice improving your spoken English. Other than that, I'm not sure. I think the only thing you can do is practice, because the thing that's most difficult is the words, but a lot of times when you're learning a language, you need to translate it in your head, and try to remember based on like your translation. And if you speak multiple languages, it might take a couple of tries to get to the word you're looking for. Like you might go to other languages first. So you just need to practice to improve your fluency and like make sure that speaking this language comes a little bit more naturally to you and the translations are faster in your head.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. White says, Mail, the best slang comes from hip hop.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of good slang that comes from hip hop. That's accurate. A lot of slang that comes from African American vernacular English, as we say.
Mm-hmm. And the same person is saying the recent slang word I learned was "bet," which means cool, originated from the Black community.
Yep, that's a common slang term to say bet. Like, oh yeah, that's great. Oh, bet. It's sort of similar to dope, but I would say it's a little bit less like positive than dope. It's just like, oh, bet. That's great. That's something that's good to hear about.
Mm-hmm. Aziz is asking once again when ACT will open for public. Once again, we don't know. So depends on the pandemic situation in the country. Farah Sultan, do you know any interesting New York slang words?
Yes, I was going to mention some of them. I think one of the most popular ones is OD, which is sort of similar to dummy. It means very. A couple of years ago, there was a popular meme that was like making fun of people from like New York. And OD just means like a lot. It's like very exaggerated. And it means like overdose or overdoing it. So if there's like too much that like, oh, like I had like OD Chinese food last night. Now I have a really bad stomach ache. Something like that is how it would be used. So that's a pretty popular New York City slang term. And as I was saying a couple of years ago, it was a really popular meme to make fun of people from New York. You can look this up and like talk about how they all wear Timberland boots. I don't know if you know this. And eat like a chopped cheese sandwich at the bodega. And everybody says like, oh, OD. So that's like a key New York slang term.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
Yes, that's like really informal and pretty specific. So I would definitely say use it in New York.
Yeah. There are a lot of questions regarding IELTS exams. Sorry, I'm going to skip that because we're not IELTS experts. I don't know, Naomi, if you are.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know about these tests.
Yeah, like for example, can we use American accent in IELTS?
I mean, I think so. Probably. You probably use whatever accent you have.
Yeah, they don't discriminate. I don't think they discriminate.
I don't.
just-
I would be surprised if they don't let you do it if you have a specific accent.
What is the question from Aziz Nasimov? What is the best way to prepare for SAT?
So I didn't take the SAT. I took the ACT, and I took it a really long time ago. And so I don't know so much about the SAT except for like more general things. I would say get a study book or do questions online. Again, just practice. I don't know about the SAT, but with the ACT, the test itself and the questions aren't all that difficult. There's just a big time crunch, and so it's all about showing that you can like get it done in time. So the most important thing is remaining relaxed, remaining calm, going over the material, making sure your English is as strong as it can be, and then practicing the time constraints so you can get everything done in time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Interesting question from Andandes. I hope I pronounce it correctly. What kind of slang words available there for using to attract girls' attention?
To attract girls' attention, I don't know. I mean, none of them feel like I could tell you like some terms that people would use ostensibly. I don't think I would ever use them. I guess I'm also like not going out trying to attract people with slang. Maybe like babe. That's a little bit more like someone that you're close with, like, oh hey babe, what's up? Sometimes like a New York slang term would be to refer to someone as mama, like a pretty woman as mama. I'm not sure what else. I'm sure that there are a lot of internet resources that can tell you the slang terms to use if you want to pick up women. I don't know offhand.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you.
that's a question for Google, not for me.
Yeah. Just a sec. Okay. Interesting question from Aziza. Yesterday I came across a slang phrase on Netflix, which was to call dibs on. Is this phrase used in the US too?
Yep, that's a pretty common phrase. It means to like, I don't know how to like describe it succinctly, but like let's say that, there's like, the last yogurt in the fridge. You'd say, "Oh, I call dibs on it," meaning that like it's yours and nobody else can take it. And so like if someone takes it, you would say like, "Oh, I call dibs on it. You can't take it." So it's like to claim something as your own, and to say that it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely used pretty regularly.
What about shady?
Shady is sort of like sus or suspect. It has like or sketchy. It has like a similar meaning of something that's like a little weird. You're questioning it. You don't really know what's going on. Like if you were to describe someone as shady, it would be like, that person's always up to weird stuff. I don't know. Like they're a little off. Like I'm not sure about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Do you know what is Aziz is asking, what is the best opportunities for owner of TESOL certification?
I'm not sure. I mean, isn't it mostly used for education, right? Like you would use it to go study abroad?
I guess so.
Like you don't need to take it for jobs, correct? Like
I think it just when you need to go somewhere to teach or to study, it actually helps you a lot. Yeah. Also a good thing to find out on the internet, probably.
Yeah, I think it's the best thing is for teaching. Someone said, okay. Yeah, it's best for teaching. I don't know where there are specific opportunities, but I'm sure there are a lot of places where if you wanted to teach English, that's like a possibility.
Yeah, when you want to go teach internationally, they usually ask for your TESOL certificate. Yeah, so opens up more avenues for you to work as a teacher. All right, so Naomi, thanks so much. Your presentation was a dope, and our viewers were all a dope. So thanks everyone. It was a great time with you, and we're gonna meet next week same time to talk about US basketball, right?
Yes, talk about basketball.
Yeah, very excited about it. So everyone join us next week.
It's gonna be lit. Tell your friends. That's the tea.
Yeah. Okay, so we got
Everything was
here we go. People are using.
That's great.
Wonderful.
I'm
right.
honey juiced for next week, as we say. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Right. So thanks everyone. Have a great evening. Naomi, please don't leave. I have some tea for you to spill.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, don't go away. And everyone else, thanks so much and see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Just a second. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions.